It is essential to know who Jesus is. It is essential to accept his finished work on the cross. But there are so many things we divide about because we want to be right. And if I'm right, then everybody who doesn't see it my way is wrong. So I found some principles in Romans 14 that will help us answer in the right way the call to unity. Here's the first principle: how to achieve unity. Romans 14 verse 1, accept the one whose faith is weak without quarreling over disputable matters. If you want to walk in unity with other believers and maybe they have a different take on some things than you have, Jesus still called us to be unified. And so how do you get at that? Paul taught the church at Rome, which was a very diverse church. And he said, here's what you need to do. Stop dividing over disputable matters. Not everything is worth you dividing from people. You can disagree without division. You can say, I see that differently than you do. And you can still walk together. It doesn't, some of you all think you got to walk, you got to think, act, talk, behave alike in order to have unity. No, you don't. Marriage is supposed to be unified. There's no way both of them going to be the same. It's not going to happen. My wife will never want the same temperature in the room I have. Never, ever, ever. It's just not going to happen. So quit saying, Lord, unify us. Teach her what the temperature is supposed to be in this. It's not going to happen. That's not unity. You got to find how to walk in unity with people you have differences with. I talked a little bit about that in part one. So I'm giving you now some solutions. The first solution is accept others as equals. In other words, the first thing you have to do is stop feeling superior. What makes some people so out of sync with God is they act like you got to be wrong because I'm right. And that's not what Paul said. He said sometimes a thing is disputable. I see it. It's not like it's cut and dry. Some things are essential beliefs. Who Jesus is, I consider essential. For me to walk with God and please him, I need to acknowledge that he so loved me that he sent his son, and his son so loved me that he gave his life that I might be redeemed. That's an essential for me. Don't ask me to unify with someone who wants to deny God. Nothing that you curse God, you curse the church, you curse Christ himself. Now, sometimes you feel like cursing the church. Now, let's just be honest. Sometimes churches are different people and not in a good way. But you got to love God even if you don't always understand his people. It is essential to know who Jesus is. It is essential to accept his finished work on the cross. But there are so many things we divide about because we want to be right. And if I'm right, then everybody who doesn't see it my way is wrong. And we got to stop that. Accept others as equals. You know why you accept them as equals? Because we're all in the same family and we all got there the same way. Do you know how you got into the family of God? Not because of how you were brought up, not because of the particular church you went to. You are in the family of God, if in fact you are, because one day the Lord touched your life, showed you his grace, and you embraced it. That's how you got in. You're not special enough to be in by yourself. None of us are saved by our own merits. If it is left up to you and I, we're all lost. You know what? We're all lost. Everybody in the world, which is why you had no business looking down on people, even out here, who are very different, life all jacked up, lifestyle is crazy, all of that. You have no business looking down on people. Because everybody needs the same grace of God. And but for the grace of God, there go you, whatever the evil is out there. When you see a mass murderer, but for the grace of God, there goes you. See, some of y'all from Never Land, even in my sins, I never did certain things. I don't understand. Even in my wildest experiences in life, I always had a sense of morality. And I always had I just, good for you. Congratulations. Even when you were lost, you weren't buck wild. Good for you. Now, what did that merit you? You were still lost. You were still lost. You just didn't wild out like somebody on your road. Look down your road. There was somebody on your road. They were wilding out for real. They were just straight up buck wild. I know y'all don't want to admit it because you saved, sanctified, filled with the mighty burning Holy Ghost. I know that, but y'all know good and well, some of y'all were buck wild. Some of y'all, your family and friends from school, when they hear you in church, you say, you what? You go to church? But now see you sitting up here looking sanctimonious. Yep, but for the grace of God, that was you. In other words, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And the wages of sin is death. Doesn't matter whether you are a quote unquote good sinner. What is that? You need salvation because we were born in sin, shapen in iniquity. I've told you over the years, we're sinners by nature, then by nurture. You come wrong, and then when you grow up, you learn how to sin. And you pick the brands of sin you like the best. And you get good at them. You look at your little sinner kids. I know you hate to think, my child, he's talking about my child. Yes, I'm talking about your child. I'm sure your child has some great qualities and you need to nurture those and make them feel wonderful. But come on, let's just be real. Till your child gets to know Jesus, your child is straight up a sinner. They just haven't learned how to sin real well yet. So when they two and they know they weren't supposed to eat the cookie and you said, no, the cookies I'm not giving them now. And they decided they wanted, and you had to go to the store. I'm going to get this. And the big brother was somewhere in another part of the house and not monitoring. And you went to the store and you were told that the youngest, you can't have a cookie until after dinner. But the youngest wanted a cookie. What did the youngest do? You gone, ain't no supervisor in here. Get the cookie, eat the cookie, hear your car pulling up. Oh, Lord. And they got to get it together. But they're a sinner. They're young and inexperienced in sin. And they don't know how to do it right. And then you walk in and you see the lid's not the way you left it. And you see crumbs on the face. Did you eat that cookie? Told you. Sinner. Crumbs right there. I didn't even know we had cookies. We all get in by the same way. The blood of Christ, the love of God that sent his son. He gave his life so you and I could be saved. Everybody who is saved because of that. So what do you have that makes you think you can reject people God's love has accepted? If God's love accepted me, how dare you try to reject me? And if you reject me, that's a reflection on you. That's not a reflection on me. Accept others as equals. Paul said some folks' faith is weak, but they're still in the family. There are some people who don't know what you know. They don't know all of your doctrine. They haven't been to classes or whatever, so they don't know. And they live in, some folks save and still don't have their lifestyle act together. How dare you try to not accept them? They're saved even if they're ignorant, if they're unlearned, they're still saved. Because if you get in the body, you get in by the new birth of accepting Christ as your Savior.